Hello and welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me. Sally here. Right, so this is probably, I think it's going to be the last grimoire video. I've finished all of my decorative stitching. I've just got to piece my book together. So I just wanted to show you a quick flip through. I've kind of positioned it, I've ironed everything now. The front page is all done. Well, all of it's all done. And then this is my altar. All done. I think you've probably seen all this. That's why I'm saying all done, because I think you've already seen it all anyway. The spell, wish, and then the witch's ladder there. That's all finished. I think you saw that last time though. And then this one here is what we were working on last time. So this is my sun, moon. It's upside down. Sun, it could be either way, I suppose. It's the sun, moon and the stars. So I've got the sun there. I think I was just cutting that out when I saw you last, and that's now stitched down. I love this old scrappy fabric. I've just done a couple of little patches there and sewn everything else down. I've done some double back stitch there, some little thread bubbles, and some satin stitch, and then the clouds I've done all with satin stitch. And what I was going to say was I've had a couple of people ask me about my stitches that I'm using, so I'm just going to go over my stitches that I'm using as well. I should probably have done this at the very beginning, but when I'm just kind of starting a project, I don't always know what, well, you don't, do you always know what stitches you're going to be doing? But I've kind of used 3 basic stitches in all of this. So that there with the stars, I've pressed it now, so all of the friction pen markings have come off, because there's a lot of friction pen markings on this. So I've done that, and I've just done some little rays in lilacs from the moon, and then some little thread bubbles again. I have, with my stars, I've this is couching here, and then I've also done some seed stitching on that. And then my last page I have now finished, because that wasn't finished before. So what I've done is I've put this grimoire belongs to, and then I'd already typed this out previously, so a little name tag and also the date. And then all I've done is some more little stars just to fill that little bit in there, and just so that, although I think it stands out, I've kind of done, the stars are actually lighter colour than the writing, because I didn't want it to clash, but I think that looks okay. The things that I have come across, I've just realised that some of these napkins weren't the same size, and this one here has got quite a significant gap at the bottom, so I'm going to address that as well in a little while. So that's my grimoire all done. Well, it feels lovely. I do love the texture of it and everything, and when you like leafing through it and all the lovely textures and everything that you can. It's very tactile. So that's all done. I can just pop that to one side, because I'm just going to address stitches. So 3 of the main stitches that I've used, I'm just going to, with writing or lines, I'm just going to do straight lines, but I do use them in writing as well, which obviously got curved lines, but just for the sake of showing you how to do them. Into a hoop. That might be a little clearer. So we've got our 3 lines there. So this is just, for most of my stitching, I think for all of my stitching actually, I've used 2 strands of just like your DMC anchor. So the first one is the, let's start with the double back stitch. So I'm starting there, and you're just working your back stitch. And it's just a normal back stitch. And then sometimes your stitches have to kind of shorten or lengthen you when you're going around, you know, when you're doing your letters, sometimes you have to get around that letter, you have to shorten them, but you just take that into account as you're going. It doesn't really matter too much the length of your stitches. So once I've done my line of stitching, I'll just do a couple more. then I'll get to the end of a line or a word. And then what I do is I come back, and what I do is, rather than start here, I start a little way in and I stagger them, you know, like kind of brickwork. So I'm going halfway into that, and I'm kind of, it's a back stitch again, but what I'm doing is I'm working very closely right next to the other one. And it doesn't really matter if you're not getting them exactly lined up. Oh, I don't care. They can be a little bit shorter or a little bit longer. It doesn't matter to me. I like them higgledy-piggledy, if you like. And especially like when you're going around corners, you'll need to just adapt to that. Then go along and just go along your line. Like that. So that's the double. I don't know if it's called something else. I'm just calling it a double backstitch. But I just love the effect that has. And I've used that in, what have I used that in? I've used it in my letters here. I've used it in the scroll work here. Let's see where else I've used it. Have I used it on that? Can't see any on that actually. Oh, no. Haven't used it on that page. Here, I've used it on my words. Here, I've used it on the scroll work as well, and on the waves, and here. So it's a good one to do straight. You know, you can do straights and curves. It's a good one to do that. So that's the first one that I wanted to show you. The second one that I've been doing is, is the satin stitch, but it's kind of like a, I don't know whether it's called a stacked satin stitch. I don't know. It's this one here. So it's a line again, but let me just stand up so I can give you a closer view. Can you see how it's just a satin stitch and they're all stacked upon one another? So what you do on that one is you've got your line again, and you go in either side of your line. And you can take this as wide or as narrow as you can get. Sometimes you can't get too narrow, but you can go wider. It is a bit of a longer, it takes a long time. But I like the effect it gives. So that's what you're doing, just going either side of your line and putting them quite close together. Again, don't worry if your stitches aren't regular or there's a little bit of a gap. It doesn't matter. If you look closely at mine are not perfect by any means. They're kind of like a little bit wobbly. That's got a little gap in it there. And I like, at the ends of my lines, I also like to do tiny little stitches, just so it kind of like tapers away a little bit. It just gives a lovely effect. So that's all I'm doing on this one. So I'll show you a couple more. Then when I get to get to the end, just kind of go in a little bit more, and then you can kind of like distance them out a little bit now. Getting tinier till you just cannot see anymore. There we go. And one. Like that. It's gone a little bit skew-iff, but I think it all adds to the charm. So that's another one of the stitches that I've been doing. And the third one is a couching stitch. So with couching stitch, again, I'm using my 2 strands, but I am also using a full 6 strand. So I'm just going to try and find my thick needle. I work with 2 needles, so I have my thick strand. Just seeing if I've got any cut off already. I'll use some of these. Again, this I've used, I'll show you in just, let me just thread my needle up and I'll show you how I've done, where I've done this. Right, so I know I've done it in the stars, I'll just show you that. So let me just again move up closer. So these lines around the stars are couched, What else did I say? Oh, where's the middle of those other stars? These ones here, the middle of that star is also couched down. So I'll show you how I do that. What I'll do is I'll actually do the star. All my stars have kind of started out like that, and then because of the ink, it can be heat erasable. You just press when you iron over it, it comes out. So my stars have all started out like that. If I start at the top here, what I've done with this is my thick thread, first of all, that's going to be couched down. Go into there, and I did this first of all. So I went all the way around with that. I'm not going to go all the way around now, I'll just do half of it like that. And then with another thread, you can do it the same colour or you can do it differently. I think on mine I've done it slightly differently. I'm just trying to get that page again. Yeah, I've used, that's a darker with a lighter on top. That one there again is a lighter yellow with an orangey kind of colour on top. But you can use the same colour as well. When you're doing that, just make sure you don't pull it too tight. Oh, I've got it unthreaded. So then, starting here, and all you're going to do is just do a little satin stitch over the top, a little stitch over the top, at regular intervals, just to tie it down. And if you don't want your top stitch showing, you can just do it the same colour as what you've already used on the bottom. But if you want a little bit of contrast, you can use a different colour. So that's all you do all the way around. And then, like I say, once that would be done, or when I didn't do mine, then when I ironed it off, all of the lines, because what will happen is you'll get those lines that aren't covered up by stitching, and then they just disappear. So that's the 3 stitches. And then obviously seed stitch. I don't know whether you want me to show you seed stitch is just, let me just get my needle threaded again. Okay, it's just a random little stitch that I've used to fill in. So I've filled in some of my stars, and again, it's just really random. Try not to think too much about it, just keep going in different ways, filling in the gaps as you go. Once you've done one stitch, you usually get a gap or a space for another stitch in another direction, like that. And you just, if you don't, you just make your own direction. Just use, I think I've got a thick thread there, and go in there. Like that. And they're the 4 stitches that I can't think I've used any other stitches. I think that's it. Like that. And you just, it creates a lovely little filling in, but not too heavy. Gives a light filling in. So they're the stitches that I've used. I wanted to show you. Alright, just going to pop that to one side and talk about how I'm going to sew this. Okay, so what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to start with my cover pages. So they want sewing together. So if you look, it's tiny, that one is. So I've got a little bit of a gap, a little bit of gappage. Excuse me. So at the moment, this is the gap that I want to address. This one here, I'm not as bothered about yet because I've got to join this onto another piece of stitching. So it's this piece here that I want to address. So I've been through my fabrics. I did like something like that, which is kind of in keeping with the tone of the piece, but it's not quite wide enough. Then I saw this piece here, which has got an old piece of patchwork on the bottom. Look at that. I think that would look really good. Same kind of colour tones. So what I'm going to do is put a little bit of a, hoping that will rip in a strip because it's so decrepit. It's not ripping. It's ripping too much. It's really thin and old fabric this is. So it's kind of, it's under stress. Doesn't matter. In fact, I could even do it that way, couldn't I? I'm kind of wanting it like that. So I'm going to sew that. I'm going to find my needle again. About out of cream thread. So this is just normal sewing thread. Right, that's threaded up. So right, let me just get rid of this one for now. I just want to make it longer to start with. I kind of like that flower as well, so I kind of want to, I think I'm going to start there. Well, then I won't have that red bit. Quite like this. No, I'm going to leave it like that because if I do need to add on to this, then I'll see it there, won't I? So it's going to go like that. I'm just going to pop some pins in. I'm going to leave it long and then I can probably tuck it under actually as I come to sew it. So what I'm going to do here is just with my thread, just join it together. Because of that. Because I've got a seam behind here, this seam is a little bit tough. To be okay now. I love how all your grimoires are coming along. I've been watching the Facebook group. Some brilliant ones. So inventive as well. I love how you're all interpreting the prompts differently, doing your own thing. I can't believe that we're we're nearly up. The month is nearly over. I've done a heck of a lot of stitching in this project, I know that, but I've loved every minute of it. I've really enjoyed this project. It's definitely been a labour of love with all the stitching. I wonder how many stitches I've done. Do you ever think that when you're stitching away? I wonder how many stitches that you've done. But it's been such an enjoyable process. Wish I could do more pages. I've turned my sights onto Christmas now, and thank you for all of your comments as well, that you're all giving inspiration to the project that I'll be doing shortly. It's going to be a December project, but I think I may start it because there's going to be, it's an advent, if you like. There's obviously going to be 25 prompts. I was on and knowing about 24, 25, because some advent calendars only have 24 things, don't they? And then others have 25. I think I'm going for 25. But what I'm going to be doing is, obviously it'll go through December, so it'll go past Christmas Day into the days beyond it, but you'll all have the prompts before that. So I think I'll release something like 5 prompts at a time, maybe. And then you can, if you're stitching along, stitch at your own leisure. And then I'll try and do as many videos in between with what I'm doing. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm not 100% yet, so if things change, they change. But I've only kind of like outlined everything. I will be doing a scroll, an advent scroll, but my advent scroll could also be a book, or it could be turned into like an advent calendar, you know, like just one big thing. Or even, what else did I think of? I thought of something else as well. I can't remember what it was. Even like a quilt or something like that. But mine's definitely going to be a scroll. Seems to have got a bit short, but let's see what happens. Yeah, so I'll be doing my Christmas reveal, I think. I'll do a reveal video when I've outlined it, when I've kind of got more of a picture of what I'm going to do. Right, so that's that. So what I'm going to do now is that, and that has got to be joined. Right, isn't it? Yes, just making sure I'm joining the right seams. I don't want this one doing it. So this and this. So again, another piece of, well, let's finish this one off, because I haven't got much left. So again, this is just going to be, in fact, I might do it that way, inside out. Not that I mind my stitches being seen, I don't mind that at all. So again, it's just an overcast stitch, very simple. So have I asked you, how are you all today? Hope you're all well. You finding your own time to stitch? I've got a quiet house. Can you hear? Well, you probably can't hear anything apart from the clock ticking. But I've got a quiet house today. Everyone's gone out. It's not very often I get a quiet house. Apart from the wind, it's very, very windy here, but it's lovely and sunny. It's not very warm. It's only about 11 degrees, but it is lovely and sunny. It's very bright. The sun doesn't come round this room, though, until late afternoon. But I can see in the garden. It's nice. So I think I may just pop off camera to finish the rest of this, because I've got another 2 pages to sew together. I've got my those 2 to sew together as well. How do they match up? They don't. What's that? Lost my needle. They don't. Yeah, I think with a bit of stretching, yeah, they'll match up okay. So I think I must have matched them up when I was doing the stitching, but you can see that they're not. Look at that. I might have to put a piece of fabric there when I join it all together, but that's what happens, isn't it, when you're using old linens and stuff? You do have to adapt a little bit to what you've got to work with. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew this, I'm going to sew the other page, and then kind of what I'm going to do is that. Okay, so pretend that's all sewn together like that. Then, because it is just a load of stitching now, it's of the boring kind, isn't it? So what I'm going to then do is I'm going to start at the top. Any additions I'm going to put down at the bottom, I think. So I'm going to be stitching that to that. Can you see how? Okay, I'm not going to be stitching that to that, because you can see there's the centre and there's that. So again, I'm going to have to put a little bit of fabric down here just to make sure that the book is going to lie flat. So that's going to be like that. That's the centre there. And then that one will get stitched to this one. Okay, so let's see how this one looks okay, actually. So no, it doesn't, because I'm going to have to put a piece there as well, I think. It doesn't matter if some pages are a bit shorter. If they join up, if they're okay like that, I think they're going to be okay, those ones. They match up all right, because it's that one that's got this thing on. And then the pages will be higgledy-piggledy a little bit, but I don't think that's going to matter. So that one goes there, then this one will go on here, which matches up. Then it goes on to this one here. So that's the centre there, and that, look, that will have to have a little bit of the thingy on there. Then that one, and that one goes on to there. Where's the centre seam? Somewhere here. So that one will just have to have a little bit on as well, like that. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sew all of what I can sew, and then add my little lengths of fabric. Yeah, that one's going to be a shorter page, I think, and that one's going to be shorter. But that'll be fine. Just make for the higgledy-piggledy-ness of it, won't it? And then that is like that. Yep. So I'm going to get on and stitch, and then I'll be back when I've kind of almost finished, I think. Right, I am back. I've sewn it all together. Honestly, I'm so pleased with it. I love it. I don't know whether you remember or not, at the beginning I was going to sew on a piece of lace there, so I've done that now. So that's kind of like one, you can pull that over. So that's my front page over, and that's my altar. That's all done. And then you can see just where the pieces of vintage fabric didn't quite, sorry, the napkins didn't quite match up. I've just put strips of old fabric down the sides and down the bottom, and then all I've done is just those little stitches all the way around. That one there, so my spell or wish, my knot. Oh, hang on, I've got pull that somewhere safe. Where is it? I can see it, I can't reach it. Right, there's my knot that I did. That goes into my pocket there to keep nice and safe. There's my sun, the moon and the stars, and then my back page. And I'm sure once it sits quite nice actually. I'm sure once it's settled down and everything, it'll be maybe go a bit flatter, but I quite like that anyway. So I'm so pleased with it. I love it, and yeah, really happy with it. I've absolutely loved this project. I really have, and I hope you have too. Thank you so much for joining me, and everyone who's been stitching along as well and are still stitching along, because I know it is a big project for just to fit into a month. I was asking quite a lot of you to get it all done. I mean, I know how much stitching I've put into this, so I know how long it can take. Usually, if I was doing something like this, it would probably take a couple of months to do, but because I wanted to get it all done in October, then I've kind of like gone and just fully immersed myself in this. So I hope you've enjoyed it, and I still look forward to looking at all of your grimoires on the Facebook group. I'll put the link in the bottom. If you haven't already joined, go and join. It's Dotty B Slow Stitching, and you'll just have to answer a couple of questions. That's just to keep the bots out and everything, and keep it all secure. So thanks so much for joining me, and I hope to see you again. On the when I do my Christmas one, which I'm going to be starting in November, sometime in November. So I hope to see you coming along for that one as well. In the meantime, take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.